welcome in. Happy Monday. As you can see, you have a guest teacher today, so thank you so much to our guest teacher for covering for me. Please give them your respect and participate well to give them a good experience in here. Okay? So to start off, we have two warm-up questions as a review from last week's multiplying fractions together. I put a hint there that for mixed numbers, change to an improper fraction first. So go ahead and pause this video and give yourselves about 3 or 4 minutes to work on these. All right, so let's start with the first one. Check how you did. Improper fractions first. So 4 times 5 is 20, plus 4 is 24. So we have 24 over 20. And then for 2 1/3, 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So we have times 7 over 3. Now remember what we talked about last week, multiplying fractions is the easiest operation to do with fractions. All you have to do is multiply straight across. You don't have to worry about common denominators or any of that. So going straight across here, 24 times 7. Now, I don't know what that is off the top of my head, so I'm going to go over here and do 24 times 7. 4 times 7 is 28. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 2 more is 16. So 168 over 20 times 3. Now, that one I can do in my head because 2 times 3 is 6. I'll add my 0 back on, so 60. So you're done with the multiplication. Now, just like everything to do with fractions, we have to simplify. So first we got to think about how many 60s can I get out of 168? Well, I want you to kind of ignore the 8 and 0 for a second and think to yourself, how many 6's can I get out of 16? Well, I can only get 2, right? Because 6 times 2 is 12 and 6 times 3 is 18. 18's too big. So I'm only going to be able to get 2 60s out of 168. So I'm going to put my whole number as 2. Now 60 times 2 gets us to 120. So if I do 168 minus 120, I get 8 minus 0 is 8, 6 minus 2 is 4. I get 48 left over. So I'm going to have 48 over 60 left over. And we definitely can simplify that. Now this is where we've talked about with simplifying that you want to try to find the greatest common factor between 48 and 60 to divide by. We spent a lot of time talking about GCF. I'm going to get rid of this to give some more space here. So you could do the factor tree for 48 and 60 and figure out what the greatest common factor is there. You could make the list for 48 and 60 and see if you could figure it out there. Or if you have a multiplication chart in front of you, you can use that. So if you take a while to find the greatest common factor of 48 and 60, you figure out that it is 12. So I'm going to divide 48 by 12 and 60 by 12, and that will give me 2, and 48 divided by 12 is 4, and 60 divided by 12 is 5, so I get 2 4/5. Now, if you did not divide by the greatest common factor, and let's say you divided by 2, you would still get there eventually. It's just going to take you longer. Like if I come over here and I do 48 over 60, and I divide them both by 2. All right, well, 48 divided by 2 is 24, and 60 divided by 2 is 30. But I can still keep simplifying. I could simplify again. I could divide by 2. And 24 divided by 2 is 12, and 30 divided by 2 is 15. And now I can't divide by 2 because 15 is an odd number, but I can divide by 3. And 12 divided by 3 is 4, and 15 divided by 3 is 5. So we still get to that 4/5, which we have, right? We have 2 4/5. There's just more steps to get there. So to have the shortest amount of work, you find the greatest common factor and it'll simplify it in one step. But you could always just divide by 2's and 3's and get there as well. Okay, let's look at the second one. 2 1/4 times 8, and it says to find the product in simplest form. So first, let's get that 2 1/4 as an improper fraction. So 2 times 4 is 8, plus the 1 is 9, so 9/4. And then we need to write 8 as a fraction. Now remember, any whole number or integer can be written over 1, because dividing by 1 doesn't change anything. So 8 as a fraction is just 8 over 1. Now we multiply across. 9 times 8. Everybody think to yourself, what is 9 times 8? We should get 72. Okay, 4 times 1 is 4. And now all we got to do is simplify. So we got to figure out how many 4's can I get out of 72. Now you might not know that off the top of your head. So it's okay to go ahead and divide those to see what you get. So if I come over here, I'm going to do 72 divided by 4, and I'm going to say, okay, 4 goes into 7 one time. 1 times 4 is 4. 7 minus 4 is 3. Bring down my 2. And 4 goes into 32 8 times, exactly 88 times actually. And 8 times 4 is 32. I get a remainder of 0. So this is actually a whole number. There is no remainder left. So 72 over 4, or 72 divided by 4, remember that that fraction bar really means division, is 18. Pause if you have questions. Review from last week. Okay, so we are going to move forward here, and first let's talk about reminders. So last week you had 3 homework assignments, 3 quizzes. You had the 2.06 quiz, the 2.08 quiz. Those were both on adding and subtracting, mixed numbers, and fractions. And then 2.10 was from multiplying fractions, which is just what we did our warm-up on. So if you have not done any of those, make sure you are making those up quickly, because Unit 2 ends next Monday. A week from today, you will have your Unit 2 test. You need to make sure that all of your work is caught up. So today our learning targets are that I can find reciprocals, which has to do with dividing fractions, but today we're going to focus on just identifying and writing the reciprocals, and then we will work towards solving problems by dividing fractions and mixed numbers. So to divide fractions, we need something called a reciprocal. And it's just as easy as multiplying fractions. You just have one step that you have to remember anytime you're dividing fractions, which means that you have to become very familiar and very good at writing reciprocals. So, what is a reciprocal? Let's look at this problem. What is 2/3 times 3 over 2? Okay, well, 2 times 3 is 6, and 3 times 2 is 6, so we wind up with 6 over 6. And 6 divided by 6 is just 1. The product is 1. And if you notice in the problem, there was the same numbers, but they were flipped. It was 2 over 3 and then 3 over 2. That's exactly what a reciprocal is. So a reciprocal is a number that when multiplied by a given number results in a product of 1. In other words, it's just where we switch the top number and the bottom number. The numerator and denominator switch to be upside down or in the other order. So instead of being 2 on top and 3 on bottom, it becomes 3 on top and 2 on bottom. So we're just switching them. Okay? And when you multiply a number by its reciprocal, you get 1. That is really important. Let me say that again. When you multiply a number and its reciprocal, you get 1. That's what happened here. We got 1. Okay, so keep that in mind. And to get us going here, we are going to watch a video. What is a reciprocal? You can go ahead and follow along with it, and the teacher will pull it up. Okay, so now that you have finished that video, that kind of gives you a better idea of how to write a reciprocal for a regular fraction and also for a whole number. So let's do some practice. So go ahead and find the reciprocal for all 3 of these fractions. Now, just to give you a hint on the last one, you have to write mixed numbers as improper fractions in order to do the reciprocal. You cannot just leave the whole number there and flip the fraction that's after. Get it as an improper fraction, then find the reciprocal. Go ahead and pause this video. Give a couple of minutes to do those. Okay, so if you want to take some volunteers to answer each of what the reciprocal for each of these fractions is, that's great. You can go ahead and pause the video for that. I'm going to go ahead and check them, and the way we check them is multiplying them to see if you get a product of 1. So 2/3, we just saw that. 2/3 flipped the other way is 3/2, right? 3 comes to the top and 2 goes to the bottom. That's the reciprocal. And if we check it, 2/3 times 3/2, 2 times 3 is 6, 3 times 2 is 6, and 6 divided by 6 is 1. That means that it is indeed a reciprocal if we can multiply it and get a product of 1. For 1/4, flip them, we get 4/1, or just 4, right? Any number with a 1 underneath is either a whole number or an integer. So this is also the same as just 4. If we check it, 1/4 times 4/1, 1 times 4 is 4, 4 times 1 is 4, 4 divided by 4 is 1. Again, a number and its reciprocal should multiply to get 1. Okay, for 2.5, we have to get this as an improper fraction first. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So this is actually 5/2. So the reciprocal of 5/2 is 2/5, or 2/5. So you have to get that improper fraction first before you can get the reciprocal. We check it by multiplying those together. 5/2 times 2/5. 5 times 2 is 10, and 2 times 5 is 10. 10 divided by 10 is 1. So yes, 2/5 is the reciprocal. Go ahead and pause if you have questions. So when we divide fractions, we will simply multiply by its reciprocal. Okay, and I'm just going to show you one example today. We will focus on doing this tomorrow, but just so you have an idea. If I have a problem, let me come down here, that says, let's say 2/3 divided by 1/2. Okay, so instead of trying to divide, because if you think about what division means, it means that we're dividing into groups, right? So how do I divide 2/3 into half groups? That doesn't really make a lot of sense in your brain, right? There is some visuals for this that we could talk about later, probably on Friday, actually. But when we're talking about the process of doing this, we are going to multiply by the reciprocal. Dividing by 1/2 is actually the same thing as multiplying by 2. So dividing fractions, multiplying by its reciprocal is the same thing. You may also hear people call this copy dot flip. Multiply by the reciprocal. Flipping is like the reciprocal, changing the numerator and denominator. So how this works is we keep the first fraction as 2/3. We change the division into multiplication, so I'm going to put my dot there, and then we just flip the fraction to get the reciprocal. The reciprocal of 1/2 is 2/1. And now we could just use our multiplication. 2 times 2 is 4, and 3 times 1 is 3, so we get 4/3. And yes, we can simplify 4/3 since it's an improper fraction. 3 goes into 4 one time, with 1 left over, so it would be 1 1/3. Okay, again, we will go more deeper into this process tomorrow, but I just wanted you to show where that reciprocal is going to come in when it comes to dividing fractions. Okay, so don't go anywhere yet because we do have an exit ticket, but we have some reminders. And yes, today's class is a little bit short. There's no homework tonight, so tonight is another opportunity for you to get caught up on your missing work. Go to your actual grade book, everyone. Do not just rely on your calendar. Go to your grade book, look at what assignments you have zeros on, because I can tell you there is a lot in this class. So make sure we are staying on top of our homework. And if you're missing stuff from Unit 1, you need to go back to Unit 1 and make up those grades. Because everyone, we only have a few weeks left in the quarter. So you only have a few weeks left to get your grades where you would like them to be. Okay? And for our exit ticket, I have 2 questions for you. Go ahead and put this chat into staff chat only, and go ahead and write your answers to the guest teacher. Once you have sent in your answers, they can give you a thumbs up on your answer or tell you to go ahead and you're good to leave, but you need to make sure that you enter in your answers first. So the first question is, what is the product of a number and its reciprocal? We have said this multiple times. And number 2, what is the reciprocal of 8?